Hey, it's Ron Johnson, and yes, another great backdrop. This is not CGI. These are real leaves. I'm hanging out down in Orlando, Florida, getting ready to go to Disney World, but we got to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves. What's going on with Karl-Anthony Towns? He told us something that we knew, but finally he confirmed it. So we'll talk about that, as well as the eighth seed. Do they find another person to come alongside Anthony Edwards? We'll talk about that next, coming up on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. And it starts now.
Hey, welcome to the Ron Johnson Show, and I'm your host, Ron Johnson. We're going to bring Sam Ekstrom on at some point in the show, but I just want you guys to know this episode is powered by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Just visit FanDuel.com/Locked On. Yeah, you see it down there. That's FanDuel.com/Locked On to make every moment more. And Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're going to want to check out the parlays. We are definitely going to make sure you know about those. But please check those parlays out because, hey, upsets are happening. Put your money on Princeton. If Princeton gets to the Elite Eight, that parlay just got paid up a lot bigger. So make sure you go to FanDuel.com/Locked On to make every moment more and get started today. Well, as I bring Sam Ekstrom to the show, we got to talk about this. Sam, Karl-Anthony Towns, and you kind of alluded to it. What happened with Karl-Anthony Towns? Because we got to talk about this. What happened?
Yeah, while you were in the air flying down to Orlando, Karl-Anthony Towns was sitting down with John Krasinski. And our friend John wrote up a good piece on what Towns revealed to him. And it wasn't in detail, but Towns did confirm that he had a, quote, major setback with his injury in January. And Towns was already upset because the team said 4 to 6 weeks, or they leaked that to Woj. Towns says that even without the setback, it was never going to be 4 to 6 weeks, but then it ended up being more like 4 to 6 months with that major setback. Remember, he posted an Instagram with him in a walking boot during the Super Bowl. People were suspicious. They were scratching their head. And it sounds like Towns is now close to returning, according to Chris Finch. But he may only get a couple games in here before the end of the season. So that's the news on Towns. Major setback. On his way back, sees the light at the end of the tunnel, but he's missed over 50 games now, Ron.
Yeah, here's the thing about injuries with NBA players, and we know this. Achilles, ankles, heels. It's one of those things where when it's a foot, ankle, leg injury, there are certain positions in football that you might be able to get away with that. We know offensive linemen, you could tape that thing up super tight, and you could just get out there and get through it. You got 17 games. In the NBA, especially when you're a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns, you had 82 games. It's tough to get out there every single night on back-to-backs and play. When you play one game, you wake up the next day, it's super sore, it hurts. You're trying to get it back ready to go again. And honestly, is it worth it long term? If he were to completely rupture an Achilles or something, or tear a ligament in his ankle that requires surgery, all that kind of stuff. So whatever the setback was, whether they said, oh, it's a 1 week thing or 2 week thing. Let's rest you and get you back out here. He goes to practice, does something after he's kind of, whatever. And then it's like, oh, yeah, it's not what we thought. It's a lot worse. Because I've been there before as an older guy even. So I'm not Karl-Anthony Towns. But I remember playing basketball in my older days, 30 plus, and having a sore, it felt like just a sore Achilles. And I remember like gritting through, man, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to still play. And then somebody kind of told me like, dude, you're at that age where that could be an Achilles. And so I stopped. I stopped for a good month and a half and just worked out, lifted weights till the soreness went away. And then I was fine. And so, but that's the difference. I'm not having to get out there and practice every day. I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm also not 6'10". That's a big factor. When you're longer, taller, we joked about the 7'4" guy and how you sacrifice height sometimes for athleticism. And so, your movements aren't as fluid when you're 6'10" to 7'4", when you look at the Purdue center and how he got taken advantage of. So there's a lot that goes into this with a guy of Cat's size. Like you said, he said he's close. Who knows what that means? We've been hearing that forever. And so until we see Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, and somebody else on the court, we're going to not understand what this team truly can be. And so I hate to say it, I was all for trading. I'm still maybe all for trading one of the guys, Gobert or Cat. But honestly, until we can see all five of those, or four at least, and then one guy, whoever their fifth guy could be, a guard, because I'm not opposed, and we'll talk about that with James Thues coming up next. James Thues is a former Syracuse point guard, started as a freshman under Jim Boeheim, and he's going to talk a little bit about college basketball, but also he has a nugget for us about LeBron James. So we want to talk about that a little bit. He's going to tell LeBron James, quote unquote, wants to be an owner, and he has a spot picked out, they think. But is it going to happen? Everybody wants to be an owner when they're rich, but can they make it work? But as James Thues alluded to as well, they need another scorer alongside of a guy like Anthony Edwards. And so I think that's going to be the key. And Sam, you brought up the Knicks game. They've won that game. They're in the 8th spot now. So they're not in the play-in. Well, they're technically in the play-in, but they're not in the 9-10 play-in. They're in the playoff play-in, which now if you beat the 7, you jump to the 7. So, again, that's actually conducive to them right now. Like, you just have to beat the 7 to be at the 7, and then that 7 drops down to 8. They play the winner of 9 and 10. But when you look at this, when you look at the whole makeup of this team right now, and like you said, Jalen Brunson with New York. All of a sudden, everybody's like, "Oh, he's just be a guy. He'll be a guy in the NBA." And now he's the man. Like, he's the man for the Knicks. And so sometimes it takes guys time. Taurean Prince, first-round draft pick, Utah Jazz, goes to the Atlanta Hawks, Cavaliers, now ends up with the Timberwolves. Record. I mean, what was the record, Sam? You said he 35 points. What record was that?
Yeah, Taurean Prince, 8 of 8. From 3-point range last night. That's the most threes in Timberwolves history without a miss in a game.
Wow.
He was on fire. 12 of 13 from the field, 8 of 8 from 3, and they needed every one of them because the Knicks had 57 from Randall. I think both teams shot about 60% from the field. That was a really fun game. And Ron, we kind of talked about this with Kaprizov on the Wild. When you lose a star, sometimes that's what it takes to get your other guys to really feel comfortable asserting themselves offensively. So last night it was Prince, it was Noel, it was McDaniels, it was Conley. Everybody was stepping up that they kind of have needed for a while now without Cat. So I loved watching it. There was a lot of teamwork, spreading the ball around, Naz Reid getting involved. It was a really, really fun game.
Yeah, and when you look at Taurean Prince, I mean, 6'6", he's basically a guard. They call him a forward, but he's more like a guard. He's like a Klay Thompson, I guess, small forward guard. And that's why I like that. I do like if he can, and again, 8 for 8, that's not sustainable. Now, can he go on a heater? He only has 8 games left that he'll really get to participate in probably. But could this build that confidence? Could this be the kind of like, whoa, where'd this guy come from? Because we know that happens in the NBA where guys go on these runs. Jordan Poole, they go on these runs, and then all of a sudden they become a star in the NBA because they get that confidence. Jordan Poole got that confidence from playing with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. All of a sudden, everybody's like, man, this Jordan Poole kid he's another splash brother. James has alluded to this. Who's the other guy? So if you were to put Anthony Edwards with Mike Conley and Taurean Prince, I like that 3. If Taurean Prince can give you that production, I'm not saying 35 every night, but if he can give you 15 to 16, just consistently every night. Like, hey, if you kick it out to him, he's wide open. He will knock down the 3. I think that's what we were talking about with Austin Rivers and some of the guys missing wide open threes like 5 to 6 times in a row. Because when I was at the Pistons game, that happened. And I'm like, how do you not knock that down? You're a pro shooter. You're wide open. Like, I think if you gave me 10 of those, I'm making 5. Like, I'm pretty sure I can make 5 of those. Maybe not from the NBA 3 all the time, but the college 3 for sure. But I think that's going to be the key to this team is can this work? And if you put Rudy Gobert with Karl-Anthony Towns down low, you're 2 bigs. But then you have Taurean Prince, Mike Conley, and Anthony Edwards. Could that be the starting 5? Could that work in the playoffs? Again, former first-round pick out of Baylor, first team all Big 12. So the kid can clearly play. But again, it takes, like you said, somebody going down, a star to kind of get out the way. Honestly, I think that's what happened for Scottie Pippen when Michael Jordan left. Like when Michael Jordan left, Scottie kind of figured out his role and he could be a star. And then Jordan came back and then they were even more dominant. Like they won 3 because it's Jordan. And it was Pippen, it was Rodman, they are not Rodman, I forgot, Horace Grant, Cartwright, they had a squad. But then Pippen, Jordan leaves for a little bit, Pippen takes over. Pippen's the guy for a little bit. Then Jordan comes back, Pippen's like, okay, I can still give me the ball. Like I can still go. And I think that's where the Timberwolves are gonna have to find who is the guy that's gonna come back when Anthony Edwards comes back, if he comes back. Because again, I mean, I hate to say it, I lost faith in this training staff. I did. I'm so like I hope next year I get my faith back in this training staff, but I just don't have it. Like I don't understand if they don't understand their timelines, if they're lying to themselves. Because again, that's why team trainers, a lot of NFL players go to outside doctors because they don't trust their own trainers because their trainers are paid by the team. So they're going to say what's best for the team and not the player oftentimes. And so I feel like that's what's going on right now with the Timberwolves a little bit where these trainers aren't, I don't know, like it just doesn't, I'm losing faith. So are they, if he's going to be back soon or whatever, he's day to day could be every day for the next year. We don't know what that means, but we got James Thues coming up, Sam. It's going to be a fun interview. Guy played against growing up. So we were middle schoolers playing down in PAL basketball. But at that moment in the 6th grade, I realized this Theus kid was special. We ended up going to the same high school, Martin Luther King High School, and he did not disappoint. He was one of the first freshmen I saw above the rim, dunking the ball, shooting it, taking games over, and then, of course, goes on to Syracuse to play. But you got to hear his story. That's coming up next. But remember, you can download the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on Amazon Fire and Roku. Just go to your Amazon Fire or Roku TV device. Just search your apps, Locked On Sports Minnesota. You can download it right there to your TV. And we have a word from our sponsors.
Today's show brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On and the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Yes, FanDuel has so many different ways to wager. NBA, NHL, March Madness comes back on Thursday. And hey, we've also got MLB ramping up here pretty soon. You can bet on anything you want, point totals, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers made. You can stack them up in a same-game parlay, and you can use the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Safe, secure, super easy to use. And here's the deal. No sweat first bets for new customers. Up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Claim your no sweat first bet at FanDuel.com/lockedon for up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if that first bet doesn't win. Make every moment more with FanDuel. It's an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Well, now it's time for the Hangover Ron Johnson segment. This one is a fun one for me. James Thues. He goes by JT, as that's how I knew him growing up. This is a guy that, I played Little League basketball. I watched him play down at 1300 Bobian in Detroit. For you guys that have watched or heard Jalen Rose and talk about that, Javen Hunter was on, and we talked about those PAL basketball days. JT was a big part of PAL basketball and Detroit basketball. Went on to the Syracuse University to play basketball, then Detroit. And now he works for the junior NBA. I want to thank JT for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. So, man, you're my boy. Grew up watching you play in the gym, watched you at King High School, and then you went on to Syracuse. And I told you, man, like the one thing I've been doing as I get older, I'm 42 years old now, man. I've been making sure to reach out to guys that I truly admired, that I wanted to make sure they knew how great they were. And like I had, talked to Tony Dungy, had Mel Blunt on. And I just know for men, we don't do it enough, man. And I just want you to know that hands down, you were one of the best basketball players I've ever seen play the game of basketball. So I want to jump out there, man. Like growing up in Detroit, people don't really understand how good. I mean, they know the Fab Five, they know the Jalen Rose, Chris Webber stories, but they don't understand how big Detroit basketball was. But, for you went to a football school, quote unquote, Martin Luther King High School, won a bunch of state championships now recently in football, but you kind of made it into a basketball school, man. How was that as you started, just basically making Detroit and Martin Luther King, a spot that people wanted to watch?
Oh man, once again, thanks for having me, man. It was it was tough, because my neighborhood school was Central, and pretty much everybody from my middle school, Winterhalter, they went to either Northwestern, Northern, or Central. So um, me playing little league, playing at Pal. Shout out to my boy Don Defoe. His father came to my house and convinced my mom to let me play for the Pal team. Team was called the Magic at that time. You know about the Magic, so
Oh yeah.
that's when I met Larry, Smoke, guys like you. And from that point on, I started playing Little League Pal and got introduced to Coach Walker, Speedy Walker. Ended up playing for him. And playing for him, um, he was pretty much my AAU coach at that point. That was my guy. I only played for one AAU person. And shout out to Speedy Walker, the family. I played for the family. Sixth grade, I think it was sixth grade after I played for the Magic. When played for the family, and uh, most of the players from the family were going to King to play. And I had a good friend, Sam Hopes, who went to King, and I just thought, why not? Because I also had met Coach White. I met Coach White at Coach Benny White at his camp. I think I was in a seventh grade or sixth grade. I met Benny White, and that was Speedy's guy. And the marriage just took place like that. And my sister, a lot of people don't know, my sister went to King. So,
Okay.
well, yeah, my sister, she went to King before me. Shout out to my sister Sharice. She was, like I said, I'm from an area, Dexter area, Linwood area. Everybody goes to Central, and that just wasn't probably the best place for me to be at that time. And luckily my sister went there to King and she excelled there. And always thought, why not? And then when I met Coach White and Speedy, it was just a no-brainer. That's where I wanted to go.
Yeah, man. And when you talk about Detroit Central, I brought this up before. Antonio Gates, for those that don't remember, Antonio Gates went to Detroit Central High School. Really good basketball
Right.
player. Darling was there as well with him. You would have had like that year, their senior year, I think would have been like your freshman or sophomore year. So that could have been another powerhouse, team opportunity. But like you said, the neighborhood and the stuff maybe you would have gotten into there versus King. It was better for you to be at King than it was essentially. You still went to Syracuse, so one of the best schools in the country for basketball. But have you ever thought about that? Because Central at the time ended up, I think, going to play Cass in the championship. Did you ever think about like, man, I could have played with Antonio Gates and Darling?
Yeah, I've thought about it. That's something I thought about, but at the same time, we're in that black and gold, man. As you
Yeah.
know, it's like um, you have to experience. I feel like those were the best years of my life, far as far as actually playing basketball. I was, playing at King and just being around that environment, meeting new people. I met my wife. Didn't know she would be my wife at the time, but you was held to a high standard far as on and off the court. That was big for me because where I'm from and the side of town I was on. We were all close and we were all family as far as friends and stuff like that. But it really wasn't that many high expectations as far as education and things like that. You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, definitely,
So
definitely.
King was a blessing to me. I bleed black and gold, and like I said, I wouldn't trade it for nothing. I often think about it, the central thing, but it's more of like just a cool thought to have because
Right.
I'm still cool with them guys. I know I just talked to Ron Day Teleferro, the coach that was there at the time. That was my guy. He's like family to me. So, we still keep in contact and stuff.
And now you've transitioned on to the junior NBA. What exactly are you trying to grow and do with the NBA in this new role?
Basically just trying to bring some more basketball to Vegas. I think in about 4 or 5 years. Honestly, I think LeBron's gonna have a team out here. So
Okay.
just trying to position the junior NBA with what's coming. So that's pretty much why I wanted to take that position, and excited about the season starting in May.
And when you say team, are you talking like AAU? Or are you talking like like a G League franchise? What do you think LeBron's going to try to do?
I think he's trying to get an NBA team
Oh, okay.
because that's just word on the street.
Right.
I talked to some credible sources, and they saying that's something that he wants to do. So Vegas is already on the rise, as you know that
Yep.
the Raiders, the Aces, the Golden Knights. I think
Yep.
they're
Yep.
almost. It's almost a certainty that they're going to have the A's. I don't know, but I think that's something that they're working on. So Vegas is a hot spot right now for sports.
Yeah, and I know players are all looking into ownership, especially a guy like LeBron who probably can come up with a easily get a group of guys for him to be a minority or majority owner, and be able to liquidate some of that cash. He started the schools, and we know, he's gonna head towards that $1 billion number, like Tiger Woods, like Michael Jordan, like Serena Williams. LeBron James is right there, so I could easily see that happening in Vegas. Probably, trying to get his son at some point to be a part of his own organization.
Exactly.
But when you look at LeBron James and you bring him up, man, and it's been a big time discussion, and I don't think you can ever qualify and quantify what Michael Jordan did in his era and what LeBron's doing in his era. But when you look at what LeBron James is doing in his era, 6'8", 250, 260 pounds, do you think there will ever be a time where people truly can just say, you know what, Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan, LeBron was LeBron? Or do you think it's always going to be you're either a LeBron fan or you're a Jordan fan, and people just can never see the two sides, coming together?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because I feel like LeBron and Jordan are two people that you can pretty much put on a projector and talk about.
Right.
They're two different styles of players with the way they think and play the game. So, for instance, LeBron is a person that I would love to play with
Right.
because you know why? He would make you feel like he loved to play with you, whether you do or not. It doesn't matter. He's gonna make the extra pass. You're gonna have the high fives, the handshakes on the sideline. You feel like a family, which it seems from the outside looking in. I haven't heard of anybody saying that they hate LeBron James
Right.
after playing with LeBron James. But I've heard plenty of people say, I've hate Michael Jordan, and that's okay.
Right.
But Michael Jordan won. I'm sure the people that won with him are definitely grateful, and
except for Scotty. Scotty's never gonna be grateful about
yeah,
Jordan.
exactly. So it's like it's a new wave. It even goes into social media now.
Yeah.
It's like now it's cool to be together and work together, and
Right.
that can be frowned upon because that's not the America that was before us, and I think it's changing now for the better. And to
Yeah.
me, LeBron was that icon that we needed to just show what you can do on and off the court with your brothers,
Yeah,
with
man.
your sisters, that. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know about the basketball part, far as who's the best, but I
Right.
know that they're just two different type of players. I've
Right.
seen both. Me and you've seen both. It's just a different era now.
Yeah, no, 100%. And when you think about, different eras, like looking at college basketball, and we'll jump into that. But when you think about college basketball right now, in the scope of where they're headed with NILs, and you think about your time in college, do you think this NIL and transfer portal, quote unquote, is sustainable, or do you think they're going to have to find a way to police this overall?
It's tough for me because I was one of those kids,
Yeah.
that left. So that's tough to me because you got some people that need to leave and some people that don't need to leave.
Mhm.
So it's pretty much like a a new wave too of culture, and that's okay. You know, a lot of people are impatient now. You know, you have people with social media, once again, that's like they need results right now. You know, they don't need teaching. They need to get to where they need to be. You know, they feel like they might know more than you, or um, feel like they can do it on their own, and that's okay. But it's like a hit or miss with the transfer portal to me.
Right.
Depends on the player, if the parents are involved, where they're going, why they're going is a number of questions. So
And when you think about you, so you talked about you transferring, you were one of those kids. You had some circumstances that happened at Syracuse. If you could go back to that time and either make a different decision, because I mean, honestly, we know the story. You left Syracuse. Carmelo Anthony comes the next year, and have you ever sat back and thought about like, man, if I hadn't have done this, or I wish I would have handled this way? When it comes to your, overall just career within Syracuse and then moving on to the University of Detroit?
of course, man, I think about it. You know, I've thought about it plenty of times, and it's got me to where I'm at now, just on a peaceful journey. Because at times, man, it was tough because I
Yeah.
left Syracuse, um, and this is no disrespect to my father or any males that were around me at the time, but
Mm.
I'm a father now, so I needed that father figure around me to kind of help me out. But the reason I left is because I was about to have a child, so I just got scared.
Mhm.
You young, you in college, everything moving fast. See, a lot of times people don't understand how fast those 4 years go. Like, I don't even remember a lot of that stuff, man. Because it just happened so fast.
Right.
And it's the ultimate what do you call that? It's a really those are some tough choices. College is like shooting craps to me. It's like, you could crap out. You don't know. You just
Right.
don't know. It could go you went to college with guys that you knew were pros but didn't make it to the pros.
Right.
But it wasn't because they couldn't play. It was just maybe the situation, or maybe they decision making off the court. They got them maybe in trouble or something like that. So yeah, I think about that, man. I think me and my brother, we talk about it all the time, because it's like, man, I would have been starting. And because a lot of people have this I've heard people say this, and this got back to me,
Hmm.
meaning that it's almost like, oh, I left because Carmelo was playing. But if anybody know anything about basketball, like playing against Carmelo Anthony and Jerry McNamara and being able to throw lobs up to Hakeem, already what I was doing, before they came there, as far as Carmelo and McNamara, it would have helped my chances out a lot
Right.
to make it to the NBA, because that's where I wanted to go. I never wanted to play overseas and things like that. Like, I wanted to buy my mama that house.
Yeah. When you think about that, I mean, like even Carmelo, like, and this is more of a joking thing, but when you think about that, you were number 15. Like,
Mhm.
what would you have done? Carmelo comes. Are you going to let him get 15, or is he taking 7?
He got 15, man. Just give me that chip. Just give me that chip. Just give me
Because
that chip. You can have whatever. You can have what he could. Carmelo could have had whatever number he wanted. Okay, I saw Carmelo on this visit, man, and we met or whatever, and
yeah.
and I don't know where I saw him. I think because usually we play. When a visit, when somebody come, you know how you play or whatever. I don't know if we played when he was there, because I think he was with his brothers.
Right.
But I definitely saw him shooting the ball, and I was like, "Yo, like this dude is the real deal." You can tell,
Right.
just from we ballers, we know from the whole swag, just his mannerisms, everything, his seriousness about the game of basketball, the way he approached it. I watched some of his high school games, but like I said, just how he was on a visit, the short time I was around him, I knew that he was definitely everything that they talked about.
Yeah, man. Because I mean, I don't think I've ever told you this story, and so being with the Baltimore Ravens, Carmelo was from that area, and so he
Mhm.
came to Cal Ripken's house. So Ray Lewis has set up this game. Cal Ripken had a game at his house with a bunch of like athletes, and so he invited Ray Lewis basically, because that was his next door neighbor. And so Ray reached out to all the guys on the team that could hoop. And so like myself, Adelius Thomas, Terry Jones, Javen Hunter, you remember Javen. And I forgot who else was, I think Randy Himes, and I can't remember the last two, but we all went over to Cal Ripken's house. He had a gym in his house, which I can't even call that a house. That thing was ridiculous. But these high school kids show up, and they're like this AAU high school group of kids, USA, whatever, U17s. And as we're playing them, we find, and I didn't even think about it at the time. Like this was later, once he got to Syracuse, we realized that was that kid, 6'8", one kid was 6'8", which was Melo. Then he had like a 6'4", 6'5". He had another 6'10" kid with him. And so they come to play. And I mean, even then I'm like, man, these kids is in high school. I'm like, oh my God. Like they're throwing lobs. I mean, the kid could shoot from anywhere. And then later he did tell me, he's like, man, I'm going to Syracuse. And I remember saying like, yeah, my boy, James Thues is there. So, you have to check him out. And then I'll never forget, man, like watching him get there and finding out you weren't there. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I never like found out. I never, cause by then, I was gone past high school, and like, I never knew what happened. I just, I saw you were at UAD at that point. And then of course, Justin, your wife's brother, was my one of my good friends in high school. And so, I started seeing Ashley, and then I'm like, oh wait, there's JT's married to Ashley. And so, that's the one thing also, man, I'm proud of you as a husband and father, man, because the way society tries to say it, and like you said, man, like being able to have that father figure, being able to be that guy, society often doesn't want to talk about that. They want to talk about the good, and then they want to talk about the celebrity. They don't want to talk about the real life that we go through, whether it's arguments, fights, whatever, and finding a way to make it work. So super proud of you for that too, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, and last, we've got two more before we jump to the daily three. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. Luke's going to jump on and ask the questions. JT's going to answer them. I'm going to pick up where he leaves off. We're going to give him most of the time because he's the guest. But when you look at the scope of Detroit basketball, and so you bring this up, you say, kids, so on and so forth. You got Imani Bates out of Michigan, goes over to Memphis, doesn't really do well with Penny. No idea why. Goes to Eastern Michigan, killing it at Eastern Michigan, gets a gun charge, gets out of that. You look at these two kids at Alabama, capital murder. You got the one kid, Miller, who's playing, and at any moment, the feds or somebody can come grab him off the court and say, hey, we're charging you because we found out you gave the what do you think needs to happen with a lot of these guys like that, man, that need that protection, need to be told, hey, stay out of these situations because you are one mistake away from not being a millionaire or even getting a shot to keep playing or even freedom. Two of the guys aren't going to have freedom. Miller's going to get to keep playing, hopefully, and, he'll tell his story. But, when you look at a kid like Imani Bates out of Michigan and you hear all the stuff and he gets out of the gun charge because it wasn't his gun, what kind of advice do you have for young guys like that?
I think that, going back to Imani Bates, shout out to Imani. He's doing his thing, on the court, and I'm glad that he's found his rhythm and he looked happy on the court. So he definitely got a chance to change his family's life. So shout out to you, man. But they need mentors, man. They need people that maybe are not on the team, but people that can talk to them, be real with them, be honest with them, pray for them, just teach them things that has nothing to do with basketball, about being a good person, why you need to be a good person, how you can affect your family, from your decisions, and really maybe go to my wife is gonna kill me, but it's in DC, the museum. Maybe they need to take trips and see these places about our history, and just see that this not a game, man. When me and you was coming up, we wanted to make it.
Right. Yeah.
We wasn't playing. Like me and you, we wasn't playing. I wasn't a kid that just sat at home and played video games. After practice, I'm going to the Northwest Activity Center. I'm getting shots up. I'm benching. When I got to Syracuse, I had the highest vertical, and I think I was like 3rd on the team in benching. You know, like we was serious, you know, but we was doing it for a reason. A lot of times these people and these young guys and young females, it's like they don't, the purpose that they doing it for might not be for them. They might be doing it so other people can see them.
Right.
Or, you know, it's like, no, you gotta have a purpose for yourself, you know, not for what you're trying to portray to be, or, you know, persona, you know, that's a mask. Like, take the mask off. Like, Imani love to hoop, you can tell. Just hoop, man.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great advice. Well, we're going to jump into the Daily 3. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. But remember, people, when you subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota, you're getting endless Vikings talk with local experts. Just subscribe to the free Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast feed wherever you find your podcast. You can find all of our videos on Locked On Sports Minnesota's YouTube channel. You can also now download the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on Amazon Fire and Roku, whichever TV device you have. Just search in your apps, search Locked On Sports Minnesota. The app will pop right up on your TV. You can get all the videos, all the shows. You can watch all the up-to-date press conferences as we know the Vikings continue to add more players. And also, please visit Vikings.com. You can check out our latest videos on Vikings.com with all the most recent free agents. Well, it's time for the Daily 3. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. Take it away, Luke.
All right, fellas. Yeah, I got the Daily 3 coming in hot. First one up, let's start with you, JT. Growing up in Detroit, there was some outstanding basketball players around. Who's someone you loved watching or tried to emulate? And doesn't have to be from Detroit alum. Could be anyone you loved growing up.
I would say definitely the bad boys. Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman, with the fly haircuts. I mean, just the swag. You know, to me, people talk about swag and these guys, you know, the way they dress and stuff now. But Dennis Rodman and John Sally with the handshakes and just that swaggerness that they brought to Detroit, with Isaiah being kind of like that, just a surgeon. You know, just could nobody hold Isaiah. So definitely Isaiah. Who else? Of course, the 5'5", you know, Jalen, what he did to Michigan, and Chris Webber, Jimmy, all those guys. Felt like you were rooting for your brother or cousin. I didn't even know those guys, but I ended up meeting them, of course, knowing them later in life. But, of course, him, Jalen. Let's see. I'll go to high school. A guy named Rolando Todd, Roll Todd. He played for Finney. RIP to Roll Todd. He was a real nice guard to me. Somebody I always kind of measure my game, you know, to see how good I was. Always checking him out. Of course, Rashad Phillips, JJ. Them guys, they were just icons to the city, like rock stars to me. Who else? Bo Leonard. There's a bunch of Detroit guys, man. You know, we was my boy Smoke. You know, Smoke. He got injured a lot as a kid, but when I first played with Smoke at St. Cecilia, a lot of people don't know I grew up around the corner from St. Cecilia. I was always in the gym as a kid. That was pretty much my backyard. So I got a chance to see guys like Smoke, Tico. So yeah, those are the people that kind of got me together. My boy Sam Hopes. There's so many to name. I know somebody gonna be mad. Plenty of people gonna be mad that I know. But
yeah,
my favorite player.
Yeah. Who you got?
My favorite player is Golden State Latrell Sprewell. That's why I wore number 15. Mm-hmm. When he got there, he reminded me of something I never seen. The bald head, the shorts, the Converse. You know, I like to be different. That's how I was. I didn't follow the crowd. So he had Converse. He was dunking on everybody. He was just in his bag, you know. And he reminded me of Westbrook when Westbrook had his MVP run or whatever. I like players like that, D Rose in his prime, those kind of guys that just play with that. That's how I tried to play, you know, with that physicalness and trying to dunk on people and stuff like that. So that's Latrell Sprewell is my guy. Golden State Latrell.
Yeah, I'd say JT is probably one of the first freshmen I've seen jump out the gym. Like as a freshman in high school, walking onto the varsity court, backdoor lob, and I'm like, okay, this kid can jump. And I'm like, all right. And so, and so after that, like I continue to watch him. Honestly, and I told Jeff, D. Bryan, all those guys, like at 6'3", 200 pounds, I was probably 6'3", 210 in high school. I look back, and that's the one thing I do kind of wish I might have like stuck with and didn't let Benny get in my head. And I missed one practice because I was sick, and then I was like, screw this, I quit. I do kind of wish, because I remember watching you guys like go up against Antonio Gates, like, man, that would have been the games where I could have been used to bang, be another big body in there.
Yeah, man.
And just another person to be able to guard anybody on the court. Now, that is the one thing I miss. But as far as basketball itself, I grew up around David Weber, so Chris Webber's little brother, played with him, Javen, Jeff McCall. Jalen Rose was always my guy. Man. Yeah, Jalen Rose, though, was always my guy. Like, he played slow, like I played slow like that. I actually found – I don't know what grade we were in. I think I had to be like an 8th grader, and you must have been 7th or 6th grade. Yeah. I found a VHS tape of you and me playing against each other in basketball. At some point, I gotta find a way to record it and show you. But yeah, I had to be like, I was like 7th, 8th grade, and you were like 6, because you graduated what, 99 or 2000?
2000.
Yeah, so you'd have been like 6th grade, and I would have been 8th. Mm-hmm. And we were in that middle school league over, I forgot where, but it was PAL. And my dad passed away. I found the VHS and my dad had recorded that game. It was like me, Byron, I forgot who else was on it. Jermaine Miller was on my team. And we played against like you, Sam. I forgot who else. Y'all had a team though.
Was Oscar on that team too?
I think, yep, Oscar, left-handed, super awkward runner.
Oscar, man. Shout out to my downriver Southwest boys, man.
Oh yeah. So what you got next, Sam?
Oh man, I think the people will pay good money to see that uncovered footage, man. You're gonna have to release that someday. All right, number 2, next one up. Jim Boeheim recently said Syracuse will not run a zone defense next year once he leaves. Do you actually believe that will happen? Like, is that going to be weird for the first time to see that? Because you think Syracuse basketball, you think of Jim in that iconic zone defense. Ron, let's start with you.
I think that he was just putting on for the media. But, I mean, in his mind, if he does truly walk away, he doesn't know who's going to take over. He's not like Coach K where he has somebody, Shire was there at Duke waiting for Coach K to retire. I don't know if Syracuse has a Boeheim kind of person waiting that's going to be able to carry on, because that 2-3 extended zone, that's not easy to teach, because you got to teach backside. You got to teach the guards how to drop down at the right moment. I've seen a lot of zones recently get the lights shot out of them because they just don't know how to. I mean, we've seen the Timberwolves try that matchup every once in a while, and they got killed by the Mavericks in that corner 3. They couldn't figure out how to stop the corner 3. And so, but Syracuse, and JT, you played in it. Syracuse for years has run that. So in my opinion, I just think he's saying it because he doesn't know who they're going to hire. And that's just him saying, look, if I'm gone and they hire God knows who, they're not going to come in and do what I did. They're going to come in and do some kind of other scheme and want to create their own Syracuse legacy. But I don't know, JT, what do you think?
I definitely think that, it's good to have. And they actually did hire Adrian Autry.
Okay.
So he's there. Yeah. Shout out to Adrian. He's a former player. He actually wore the number 15.
So then he might run it there. He might run a 2-3.
Yeah. So, he's a brother, and I'm excited for him. He's highly touted and everybody respect him on the team, and past players. I've never actually met him, but as far as the zone, it's good to have, at least he have it. But,
right.
The thing about the zone, to me, was that was like, Pat Riley with the Lakers. It's like that was Boeheim thing. I don't care who you are, you're not gonna be able to play the zone like Boeheim, because that was basically his brand. That's what he branded. He recruited players that knew how to play in that system. And to me, that's like, he was a wizard at that. So I just don't. It's almost like, it's just the end of an era, man.
Yeah,
it ain't. It's no more.
I can see that. I get that does make sense
too.
Era,
because that was Boeheim thing.
Yeah,
it's just his personality. He was a character, so it's like he's up there with the Mike Krzyzewski. Like Bobby Knight. Like he's one of those type of guys. So, and that was his thing. So I definitely don't think the zone is going to be popping like that anymore. You know, it's good to have it. You know, at least you know, Audrey, he'll have it, and he probably can be the closest to getting the best out of his players at it, because being up under Boeheim so long, you know, you learn all the little tricks and stuff like that.
True.
You know, but it can't be matched, man.
What you got next, Luke? Last one.
All right, last one up here, fellas. So speaking of eras, the new era in the NBA is all about the super teams right now. Do you think Anthony Edwards can get it done with Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert the way they're constructed? If not, what's missing right now? What's holding them back?
This is just my honest opinion. I like Minnesota. Got recruited by the coach from Minnesota during my years. I forgot his name.
Chris Finch?
Nope. Man, I have it on my phone. Let me see. Give me 1 second.
Would have been Skip or not Skip?
Was it Dan Monson?
Oh, Dan Munson, Gophers. Yeah.
Oh, Gophers. Yeah.
Gophers. Yeah, Minnesota. Yeah, the Gophers. Yeah. So I got recruited by them in high school. They actually sat in my living room.
Wow.
But I think Anthony Edwards needs another player that he can learn from, and also a player that he can take breaks throughout the game and not try to be the ball dominant person all the time. And I don't know if that's a good mixture with Karl-Anthony Towns and him. I think Rudy Gobert is good for any team, just because NBA players don't play defense anymore. So it's like, if you can get 4 other guys around Anthony Edwards, some shooters, a combo guard, somebody that's proven that can score but can be a leader, somebody like a CJ McCollum that could take over spurts here and there of the game, those type of players, but also can hold respect in the locker room. I think that Minnesota would be good. It's nothing wrong with Karl-Anthony Towns, but, I think he can be a better fit for the Lakers. He could replace Anthony Davis to me. Imagine if they had Karl-Anthony Towns, he younger, just the way he play. He's an outside-in person first. He's not an inside-out person. And that's just my opinion. But
no, I think
I think Minnesota definitely got the talent. They just need somebody that Anthony trusts and he can listen to, but can show him how to win. And I don't know if that's that trio, but I would definitely keep Rudy just because the league don't play defense anymore. So somebody blow past you, you still got him. So I'm sure if they could find 3 more other guys that can play and know their roles around Anthony Edwards, that can be scary.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think I looked at like Jackson with the Grizzlies and what he brings to that team. Defense definitely matters. And I've said that honestly. I earlier, I think in the year, I said trade Cat and try to get pieces that you can get around Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. And now you've added a guard like Mike Conley, who's an older guard, but you're right. There's no reason you can't have a CJ McCullough and go a 3-guard system like when you look at the Warriors. They always go out there with a 3-guard system. It works. Rudy Gobert is your big. You get one more big to play with him. You go with Anthony Edwards. It could be a CJ McCullough, and then Mike Conley Jr. And that could be your you got your 2 plus you got Rudy Gobert. And it's interesting. I do like that take though, because I think that's always been the key. Anthony Edwards can go, but yeah, you're right. When he's down or he's tired or whatever it might be, they need somebody else. They tried it with D'Lo, didn't work all the time. Worked sometimes, but not all the time. But yeah, there does need to be another guy. I want to appreciate you. I appreciate you for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show, JT. As I always do at the end of the show, man, I always let the guest kind of write a letter to themselves. If you can go back to the future, 18-year-old JT, 19-year-old JT, 15, 12-year-old, whatever it is, and you were able to give yourself some type of advice to help yourself out in the future, man, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself to just follow my first mind. Do what you need to do what you want to do what you notice in your gut. I would have took all of my visits. A lot of people don't know I only took one visit. I have plenty of visits lined up. And I only took one visit, and I committed on the way from the airport. leaving my visit. So I would have took my visits. And other than that, man, I think I've done pretty good. You know, I'm a good decision maker. You know, I take care of my family, and I've been a faithful, loving husband to my wife, and try and continue to try to be a stand-up guy, you know, to my family, and just be a great example as what can be, you know. So I feel like I beat the odds, man. You know, I have no stress, man. Life is good for me, you know.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, man, I appreciate you for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. Remember, people, if you want endless Vikings talk with local experts, just make sure you subscribe to the free Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel, where you can find all of our videos, all of our shows, instant podcasts after every game, and the Vikings press conferences delivering all the biggest news. And remember, this episode was powered by FanDuel Sportsbook. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked on to get started today. It's going to make every moment more. And we're in the middle of March Madness, people. So those parlays are going to keep getting better and better and better. You don't want to miss out. FanDuel Sportsbook is where the action's at.